that's what it was doing before. Why did it stop? Okay, back to the beginning. Okay, so my name is Abby, and I'm interviewing Eleanor Hensley. So we're going to start off with how old you are.
I'm 62 years old.
Okay. So she fits at the higher spectrum of the middle adulthood age range. What are the visible signs of aging that you have noticed that are happening at this time in your life?
Oh boy. Okay, we'll start with aches and pains. Just more of them. People told me that would happen, and it does. More, I'm going to call it pressure on my, my knees and my ankles. I really notice it in my joints. I don't need knee replacements like an awful lot of people my age.
Yeah.
But I also get more, I have this tendency to get more, sprains or strains or, itises.
Yeah.
And not because I'm injured.
Right.
It is more, that's right.
Related.
I can tell that they're just age related.
Do you feel do you see vision changes?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I have an eye appointment tomorrow. And I wear trifocals at this stage of the game.
Yeah.
And I've been wearing glasses probably, I'm going to say my mid-40s when I recognized I needed to wear them all the time.
Yeah.
So then it's like you get to your mid-50s and you get bifocals. And that's when you're like, that's this new stage of, oh my, now I wear bifocals. I'm into trifocals now. So and I also recognize when I need to go get them. And it's based on that reading thing. I'm reading, and I'm an avid reader. And it's like, oh my gosh, I guess I need a new pair of glasses. Yes, absolutely. My vision, my hearing.
Yeah, your hearing.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's a common thing.
What I really notice is when I do meetings on the computer.
Yeah.
And I at first I was like leaning forward and I thought it must be me. I just can't hear. I can't hear.
Yeah.
And finally I started using earbuds, and it really helps. And part of me wished I could just take earbuds around and say, okay, what you talking to? It really is, it clarifies it a lot. I also got vertigo, which is not necessarily because of aging, but I think that the hearing, my sense of balance is, and that's an odd feeling. My granddaughter the other day, she got a new bike, and it's an old-fashioned bike.
Yeah.
And I said, ooh, that's just like what I rode when I was a kid. And she says, I don't think you can ride this bike, Grandma. So I was like, oh, okay. And I said, can I try? And she, of course, said, sure. And she ran in the house and said, everybody come watch Grandma ride the bike. But, I got on it. I mean, but it took me a little while to actually, and I rode it back and forth. And I recognized something. I have no business riding a bike. Okay, but you don't think about those things, or dancing at wedding dances, or the next day it's like, what do I think I am, 20? I mean,
right.
There's so many of the things, and you don't think about it till you do it, and that's what I notice about aging.
Yeah. Have you struggled with weight gain at all?
Oh my, yes. My whole life. Well, I call it my old friend food. I always invite it back in my life. But I've always tried to maintain it. So I do have a limit on how much I'll gain. And most recently went back to Weight Watchers, which was my third time in my lifetime that I've had to go back and get what I call a booster shot.
Yeah.
And it was to shed. And I think what was interesting was I knew that I was not going to set some ridiculous target weight either.
Yeah.
This is a realistic weight for me, because my daughter, are you still on weight? Well, yes, I've reached my goal.
Yeah. Because
I honestly know that I'm not gonna lose a lot more, and I have to really watch what I eat, because when your activity level decreases, you can't eat as much.
Right. Yeah.
It's like this vicious cycle, but absolutely, the weight gain thing. It's real.
Yeah. Health is a struggle, especially as you get older. The main thing is just trying to engage in physical activity and mental activity, and then weight bearing exercises that helps your joints, and watching what you eat, that makes a huge difference.
I tried yoga,
Yeah.
and my sister-in-law would really like it if I'd continue it. Um, I didn't find that relaxing. Okay, I don't know. You know, they say,
I
oh,
don't either.
okay,
That's not my thing.
thank you. I just, that was not relaxing to me, and it started stressing me out to go to yoga. So I thought,
Yeah.
well, that's not smart. I walk.
Yeah.
I am a walker, and
Yeah.
of course, now I have this tendonitis, and I can't walk like I.
Yeah.
There are things that
It's a
just get
vicious
in the
cycle.
way,
Yeah.
and I also had to change. I wear Nike tennis shoes. I've been wearing Nikes, well, probably since my 50s.
Yeah.
When I realized I needed to buy a good, decent tennis shoe,
Yeah.
and so I wear Nikes. I'm now into a Nike Air Max because I need more support.
Yeah.
That I really, I think my
You
feet,
rely on that a
obviously,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah. Does your family have hereditary heart problems or cancer or hypertension or diabetes?
Well, I'll start with my parents, who are
Mhm.
both passed. Mom and dad both died from cancer. Dad had lymphoma and leukemia, and mom actually had breast cancer that had metastasized. Now, mom had two different types of breast cancer, which is
Oh, okay.
kind of
Different. Yeah.
she had one, and then 10, 11, 12 years later got a different kind. Her
Yeah.
second kind was the HER2 positive
Mhm.
that one could be tested for. Mom was also diabetic, but she managed very well with
Yeah.
diet. She was really good at managing it with her diet. Um, Neither mom nor dad really had hypertension
Yeah.
that I think of specifically. The heart problems. Mom had double bypass, and dad had a stent. But both of those things were later.
Later in life.
They were over 60, and I think somehow the risk factors, my understanding of that, are different. Not that they're gone. I have a sister though that has actually coded on two different occasions. She's younger than I am.
Oh my goodness.
She has, the first heart attack, they called it that. They said she had the drop dead heart attack gene, which is not funny, but
Yeah.
and then the second time they put in a pacemaker and a defibrillator. So she has, and she manages, she really does manage extremely well. But that, my cardiac health is always in the back of my mind.
So you're very aware of the signs and symptoms of
Yes.
all those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think about that more than anything, having been with her
Yeah.
both times. Another thing was really more like health related, but my teeth.
Yeah.
I've had fairly good teeth,
Yeah.
but as I've aged, they're, I've had them like break, and
Yeah.
I have crowns and caps all over the place, and
Yeah.
it's expensive to keep your teeth.
Yeah.
It's just a terribly expensive thing. I will continue to do it because I don't want not to have my natural teeth.
I can
But
imagine.
I've really noticed a difference in, I'm a little more cautious. I don't chew ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not something I do anymore. So.
Yeah. So since entering this stage in life, have you noticed any cognitive or intellectual decline in how you make decisions or remember things?
We'll come back to that remembering. My decision making is slower.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's because I really stop and I think. And as I've aged, I feel like I've learned there's so many things that I used to just, think, and, I'll think, the reality is most of what you worry about is not going to happen.
Right.
And I've calmed down about a lot of things. And so I feel like my decision making is better.
Yeah.
Because I'm not as reactive.
That's a big thing. At my age, I feel like even just when I was just a little bit younger, it's like you overreact to things that it's just not necessary. And now even I'm 26, and it's like, why get upset about that? It's not worth it. It's always going to work out in the end. Something's going to work out.
Well, and one of the things I always say is, because my energy level decreases,
Mm-hmm.
it has, I always think, do I really want to expend the energy on this?
Right.
That's kind of my thing. If I've only got this much, why would I use it on that?
Yeah.
So I don't stress as much. Now, remembering things, I have kept up with technology. I teach on television. I do Moodle. I teach online. And so I've kept up. I text. And recently I even got on Facebook. I could have gotten on sooner. I'm just not a social network sort of person.
Yeah.
But I'm a lot of that has to do with my grandchildren and the idea that I want to keep up with what
Yeah.
they're doing. I kind of get that Snapchat thing, and I do a little bit, not totally.
Yeah.
But like I am a copious note taker, and then I have to read something out loud or say it out loud and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. But I do notice if I do that, I can remember.
Yeah.
But it does seem to take me a little longer to get it in there so that it sticks and stays.
That's very common. Like typical college age students, they can remember stuff so quick, but as far as retaining it and keeping that information, they don't tend to keep it. But people who are in middle adulthood, if they were in a college setting, they struggle to memorize things, but once they get it, they're gonna know it for the rest of their lives. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's gonna stay there.
But is the forgetfulness, I haven't read lately about, but it's forgetfulness. I put something away. I know I have it, and I cannot find where it is. Now, I used to make fun of my mother, and I feel really bad. And so, but it's pretty real.
Yeah.
That I just don't retrieve it as quick, and I'm not as quite as sharp. And especially, I notice it about stuff around the house, and I'll think, oh, I'm going to need that, in a couple months or whatever. And the couple months will pass, and I'll think, oh, I need it. Where did I put it? And I always think I'm putting it in a safe place that I'll always remember.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. Sometimes, so I've heard this saying that wisdom comes with age. Do you believe that that's true all the time?
Well, I think for some people, wisdom comes with age. Not everyone acquires the wisdom part.
Right.
And really, I feel like I am wiser with age.
Yeah.
I recognize that as we've lived a long time, I've lived a long time. I've lived a lot of the history that, you're probably studying, and I've lived through that. I believe that I have become wiser with age.
Yeah.
I know better which mountains that I'm going to die on. They're not as many as I used to have.
Yeah.
And I even have noticed that my thinking is even substantially more flexible. I'm a teacher, and I teach early childhood. So when I think about this with gender identity, and I used to not think anything. We used to, honestly, if a kid was, 3 years old and said, I'm a girl, but they look like a boy, we would always say, no, you're not. You are.
Right.
Okay. And I'm rethinking all that dialogue and rethinking all of that now that I've been more enlightened about, and I think back on kids that maybe I did that too, and I think, oh, I hope that I didn't harm them. But, we didn't, I mean, that was the practice at the time.
Yeah.
So I find myself wanting then to learn more about topics that have come up and about that stuff.
Yeah.
And so then I'll start reading and, because I love learning.
Yeah. That's always good. They say that in order for you to become wiser, it's all based on the kind of decisions and choices that you made as a young adult. As far as if you made wiser choices when you were younger, you tend to make wiser choices when you're older. But if you didn't do that, you tend to make not so great choices as you're older.
It's kind of interesting when I think about that, because I look back on some of my decisions and I wish I had been wiser about some of them.
Yeah.
And I definitely learned from them.
Yeah.
I think about the fact that my husband and I made a conscious decision to stay married to one another.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying it is not easy, and it's not, it's not automatic, and, so far so good.
Yeah.
And, But I know that I used to look around and I would see that people would get divorced
Mhm.
and then they never, a lot of times they didn't really trade up. Okay, they got a new
Yeah.
spouse or whatever, but it was like,
Wasn't necessarily
well,
better.
okay, and then I would see the complications of their lives
Yeah.
with stepchildren and half siblings,
Mhm.
and you'd see these families kind of grieve every time they had to leave. I don't know, I would see
Yeah.
that, and I remember thinking, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. And I've told a lot of people, then we've been grandparents now for 13 years, but and when we had our granddaughter, it's like that's why you stay married.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
I say that you know
So
that
you talk about that. So your relationships, do you feel like they've changed with others since you've entered this stage of life? Um,
oh yes.
yeah. So with your significant other, obviously you said that, and your
You know, he and I don't fight.
yeah.
It surprises me
Mhm.
because it isn't like we always agree.
Right.
Okay. But you know, we used to get into some real, you know, head butting
Yeah.
disagreements and arguments and raise your voice
Mhm.
and the whole bit. And we don't do that anymore. Um, we kind of give each other the space that we need because, you know, within 24, 48, 72 hours,
Yeah.
all could change. He also had prostate cancer and was radiated and had that. And that really put
Mhm.
it, there's something about that that puts a very different spin on your relationship
Yeah.
because and it did. It
Yeah.
made it substantially better for
Yeah.
us. And I thought, once
Which
again,
that means you had a very solid foundation.
yes, but once
Yeah.
again, I was glad
Yeah.
that we had stayed married.
Yeah.
And especially, I look at our relationship with our children.
Mhm.
And, you know, it is not perfect, and nothing in life is. And we have two daughters. Our oldest daughter's special needs. She was born with multiple birth defects and has a very rare syndrome. It's called
Mhm.
Gulch syndrome. She's a single parent,
Mhm.
and the biological father is not at all in the child's life.
Right.
And so we play a very integral role in trying to support our daughter to be the very best mother she can
Yeah.
be.
That's tough.
And yes, it is. And it's very difficult because she still has health challenges quite a bit,
Mhm.
and she has some mental health issues
Yeah.
too. So that's a challenge. And then with our younger daughter, I always felt like she kind of grew up fast, and it
Yeah.
could have been because her older sister had special needs. She and I've had some, you know, pretty, you know, I'm going to say disagreements.
Yeah.
And I pray. I'm a woman of faith. I believe
Right.
that that's very important to me. And a lot of times, I'm the first one to say, "I am sorry. I will never do that again," because I recognize in about 48 hours that maybe I had gotten myself in a tiz over nothing.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's been just a few times when I'm going to call it stand my ground, but I don't mean to
Mhm.
minimize what that means.
Right.
Um, and I think we've grown from it and then become more respectful.
Yeah.
And so in the end, it was absolutely the right
Yeah.
way to take that journey. I have two daughters that are
Very
really,
different.
they are
Yeah.
night and day. And with our daughter that with the special needs,
Do you feel like there's almost an overload of stressors dealing with that as you get older? Does it seem harder or?
yes, I think what's harder is the medical field has changed so much.
Mhm.
And so she has to kind of, and she has like a million pre-existing conditions.
Right.
And so when people say stuff about that, it's like, for heaven's sakes, we've been dealing with that for 38 years.
Right.
Quit your whining.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that. I don't mean,
Yeah.
yes, it's difficult. My husband and I don't have the same amount of energy
Yeah.
to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then once she became a parent, we felt like our hands were tied.
Yeah. Because you're supporting her, but you're also almost filling this father role too, and it kind of makes it
Yes.
hard because.
Well, yes, it is very difficult because I don't a lot of times agree with the decisions that she
Yeah.
makes. And so, and I have learned to, you know, she has never been someone who kept a house clean.
Yeah.
She has a tendency toward hoarding, which is very difficult. And she's an adult child.
Yeah.
And the disagreements. We've learned to tag team.
Yeah.
And to pass the baton.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that her dad is, you know,
he'll address with her versus,
that's right.
Yeah.
And then they both, I recognize when then one of them's mad at the other, they do kind of, sometimes I feel like put me in the middle.
Yeah.
And I've learned not to react to them, but to listen.
Yes.
And I will let him know that is my daughter. I am never going to do anything to alienate her because she is the mother of my granddaughter.
Yeah.
Which is the stressor, I think, with mental
Yeah.
health.
Yeah.
And then there are times when I say to my daughter, that is my husband and that is your father, and you will not talk to him about him that way to me. So I've had to put some boundaries down.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah. So in your marriage, we were talking about earlier, but do you feel like you have an intrinsic marriage, which is based on love and value, or do you feel like you have a utilitarian marriage, which is more about your children and property and status and things like that?
Today, it's intrinsic, okay? You know, there have been literally, it's been both, and it just kind of depends. Since becoming grandparents, it's more intrinsic.
Yeah.
But
so when you first got married, and as your children grew up, before you entered middle adulthood, how do you feel like it?
It might have been a little more, I want to say extrinsic, but that's not utilitarian. Okay.
Yes.
There were a lot of times it was utilitarian, and one of the things that made it that way is I'm a practicing Catholic.
Yeah.
And the Catholic Church frowns pretty heavily on divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, you know, I grew up during Baltimore Catechism, you know, where,
mm-hmm.
okay. And there were some times when that was the one thread. Okay.
Yeah.
I was ready to say, okay, I can sell my house. I don't have any, you know.
But children.
Well, the kids,
Yeah.
I never, okay. And then also the fact that I'm Catholic.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I'll never get an annulment. See,
Yeah.
that I mean, which is irrational, but but really, I would say.
Did you ever have the thought of like what it would be like if you had done that, if you had separated, and the getting into another relationship or remarriage, the rates of remarriage are down, but divorce is a lot higher.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
I think if you, okay, it's different at different stages of your life. If I had divorced when I was younger, I'm sure I would have remarried. And then you get to a point where
mm-hmm.
you would get divorced not because you have any interest in anyone else.
Right.
Okay. And then you might look like companionship, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That the rate of remarriage is down. I think also a lot of my friends, colleagues, you know, they have a tendency, especially if you're a little bit older when you get the divorce, to just live with someone and not remarry them.
That's common too.
And then, okay, so this new little trend,
mm-hmm.
I've got a couple friends that this has happened to, or I'm going to say friends like people from high school, that sort of thing,
right.
where they went ahead and got married at 60, 62, whatever, for health insurance. And I am being honest. Okay, because if one can go on Medicare,
not like they didn't love each other, but they
were
went
together.
ahead and
they were living together.
Yeah, they just went ahead and did the marriage part.
They ran over to the courthouse one day and decided to get married, not tell any of us. But anyway, and it literally, there's two people I know, and they did that, and it was for health insurance reasons. Yeah, which I found amusing.
Yeah, that is funny.
I wonder if that's going to be a new trend, or
that could be.
If people were honest enough to say why they did it.
Yeah, that's true. So what we talked a little bit about, but what is your career at this time?
I am on the faculty at Highland Community College. I've been at Highland for this my 17th year.
Hmm.
Prior to that, I was at Penn Valley Community College, so I've really been in higher education for quite a few years, almost 30. And I've been in early childhood forever,
Yeah.
is what I say. And I love what I do.
Hmm.
Um, Students are a little different than they used to be.
Yeah.
Students will tell you things now that I just think, oh my gosh, I'd have never told my college instructor
Right.
that. And I've learned to just, take everything with a grain of
Yeah.
salt. Students will tell me about, they're bisexual or whatever, and I've just learned to say, well, thank you for sharing that. And is there a reason why you shared it? Because
Well, they feel comfortable with you, I would say. I
that's what
think
my students say.
people my age, they lean towards people that they feel like they can trust, and there's not going to be judgment. And they obviously have that kind of relationship with you. They feel comfortable, and they don't feel like you're going to judge them.
Well, I think when you're the early childhood teacher,
Hmm.
and this happens a lot, because I'm teaching students that are going to go into the field, people think you're a child psychologist. Okay,
Yeah.
now, because every one of the people at work, if they have young kids and they see me, they'll always ask me, by the way, my 2-year-old is doing this or whatever. Is that normal?
Yeah.
And also the older I get, the more I notice that they
Yeah.
ask me those things. I had every intention of retiring in May.
Yeah.
I was ready. And my boss, she's a young, wonderful vice president,
Hmm.
really, really just tech savvy and, the whole bit. And she really wants me to give her one more year. And so she started this fall saying, if I beg every time I see you, and that's like,
Hmm.
please don't. Okay, I don't want. And so I decided finally, because she said, well, is there anything that would tip the scales? And I thought long and hard, and I had, because I
Hmm.
really was planning to retire. And I decided there were a couple of things. Number one, I told her, I don't want to miss one more grandparent day, basketball game, music concert, anything of my grandchildren's,
Yeah.
because I have to work. And that's this whole new feeling where, first of all, when you're at this stage in my career, and when I was younger and I do a project, I'd always say, "Oh, it's just like having a baby,
Hmm.
you just nurture it along."
Yeah.
And now I call these my swan songs. Okay, I'm looking at you in the rearview mirror. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to leave it better than I found it, which I have. I want to stay meaningful at my job, but I also find myself wanting to do and try other things, mostly because you don't have as much energy.
Yeah.
So I would
That's not because you have lost interest or anything.
no,
Yeah.
and
That's pretty common at
is
this
it
age. It's the time of change. It's where you want to change things and you lose interest and things like that. But it's are you so obviously you're not wanting to advance your career in the
well,
future
hello. I
because you're
haven't.
ready to
Let me tell
retire.
you, I've always kind of resented the fact that the only way a teacher can move up the scale is to move out of the classroom.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little insane.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be an administrator.
Yeah.
I have been asked at a variety of times in my career if I would be interested in that, and the answer is always no, no, and never not. Politics, no, no, never not.
What is
There are
your
certain
degree
things.
in? What do you
I have
have?
I'm a master's degree in education,
Okay.
early childhood.
Okay.
So that and that's my passion.
Yeah.
But especially in this job, but I do want to try some different things. I
Yeah.
just want that freedom, to take a class in how to edit movies or
Yeah.
something that interests me, not because it's going to advance my career. And that's another thing, like at work, I'm not interested in professional development opportunities.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
mean to sound ugly. Now, I have found kind of a passion. I got really interested in the mental health first aid
Hmm.
certification classes. So I was told, well, what can you do about it? Well, I wrote it into a Perkins grant to fund someone to go. I did not want to be the person to go become trained.
Right.
I didn't know that was not my interest. I just think it's a very effective way for folks to, um, when you encounter people, and we all do, it's just that first line of
Hmm.
defense. That's
Yeah.
all it is. It's the same as, CPR, but it's actually,
Yeah.
and then I know. And now, And so I wrote the grant. We got adult mental health first aid plugged in. And then most recently, we're doing youth mental health first
Mm-hmm.
aid. I love facilitating it. I feed everybody. I'll water you. I'll do all
Yeah.
that. I'll make all the copies. I've completed the certification classes, but I feel like it's making a difference. And
Yeah.
I know whatever I do, I think I really,
Make a difference.
yes, I
Yeah.
want to make a difference, but I don't feel like I need to grow my career
Yeah.
because everybody was surprised. Well, why don't you go do that? And no, because I don't want to.
Right? I
I
don't
don't
want
want
the
to.
responsibility.
I don't want to
I
be
don't
up
want to.
there. No, the
Yeah.
person that has to stand up there and deliver this.
Yeah.
I get to teach. There's my pulpit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't. No. I just soon work in the background now, and I was not always that way at
Yeah.
all, at all. But I'm not looking at advancing
Yeah.
my career. I'm see you later.
What lifestyle choices have had a strong impact on your health status, like your exercise or your diet or your different habits?
Um, Embarrassingly and ashamedly, I will say I'm a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
Now I am on Shantex. And I've tried multiple times.
Yeah.
And I never considered myself to be a heavy smoker. Like I was never like 3 packs a day.
Yeah.
Not that. But I've had just some pivotal moments,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always been ashamed of it. And I douse myself in perfume, and I
Mm-hmm.
just make sure, the whole bit. So I'm down to 2 a day, which I'm really proud of. And my doctor and I discussed this, because I was, so I've used the excuse, oh, I don't want to gain weight,
Right.
that kind of thing,
That's
which is really kind of a stupid excuse. But us smokers will do anything.
yeah.
So I understand addiction.
Yeah.
I understand it because of my cigarette addiction.
Yeah.
And I'm not addicted to the nicotine.
It's
the
the
habit.
habit.
It's
Yeah.
the habit.
Yep.
And it's the getting in my car
Yep.
when I go to work and getting in my car when I get home.
Yep.
And the days that I almost like sad and depressed when I don't do it, and
Yeah.
then I feel stupid.
Yeah.
But that's been really a horrible thing. I have stayed reasonably active walking.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've learned, to park far away and to walk up to the store. When I walk at work, I briskly walk from one place to another.
Yeah.
So I've been able to do that. So my
Yeah.
physical activity, I'm fairly comfortable
Yeah.
with. I go to the doctor regular. I have my mammograms. I have my
Mm-hmm.
colonoscopies. Get my teeth checked, get my
Mm-hmm.
vision checked. I feel like I've always I've always had health insurance.
Yeah.
And will always have it.
Yeah.
So I think that's been okay. So, but there's this just one really, really bad mark
Yeah.
on the old health record. And my doctor, she happens to be a nun, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost a good thing because I was raised half afraid of them. Okay,
Yeah.
so, and she's a little bit older than me, not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like she kind of understands, and she showed me how my risk factors
Mm-hmm.
for either a stroke or a heart attack in the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the smoking is what puts all the points on there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and she said, so let's just do it.
Mm-hmm.
What? And that's, I think, what
Yeah.
really, I thought, oh my God, she's right.
Yeah.
And she can be stern with me.
Yeah.
She's very proud of the fact that I'd, taken off some of that weight.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, Eleanor, that is not going to kill you like the smoking.
Yeah.
And then I had a nephew one time, and he asked me, we were talking about quitting smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, I think you will when you get lung cancer. He didn't say if, okay? He said when. And do you know that
yeah.
and I thought, oh my God, I think he's
Stuck with
right.
you.
Yeah, it really has.
Yeah.
So that's my bad health habit.
So if you could change your choices from the past, what lifestyle choices
Oh
would you
boy,
change?
I'd never start. I never would have
start
started.
again. Yeah.
Now, here's what I sometimes think though, because I do know that there is a theme of addiction,
Mm-hmm.
predisposition maybe to addiction, and there is
Mm-hmm.
the alcoholism. It's in our family. I sometimes think I probably would have just maybe been addicted to something else. I don't
Yeah.
know that, but I do wish I would have never started.
Mhm.
I wish every time I quit, I would have stayed.
Yeah.
That I would have. I did not smoke when I was pregnant. After I had my first daughter, and she was
Mhm.
born with all these birth defects and everything, I wanted a cigarette so bad, and I thought, I am not going to smoke. There's no way. I've not smoked the whole 9 months. And I was pumping my breast, and she couldn't breastfeed because her bowel was out. Anyway. And finally, when my breast milk came in, and she started projectile vomiting, she was allergic to it.
Oh.
And I had a real screw this.
Yeah.
I am going to drink me a beer, and I'm going to drink me some wine. I'm going to have me a cigarette.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Then I quit again with my second daughter.
Yeah.
And I didn't even drink coffee when I was pregnant, which is funny because
Yeah.
I love my coffee.
Yeah.
And then it just, the minute I stopped breastfeeding, it was like, oh, good, now I can smoke.
Yeah.
Somehow thinking that, I wasn't even thinking the fact that I wasn't a good role model, that I would,
Right.
My grandkids, of course.
Yeah, it
They're-
makes a difference.
They're being
They're
raised
looking
in
up at you and they're like, "Oh,
Well-
Grandma smokes."
Well, let me tell you, they've been taught tobacco's a drug.
Yeah.
So it isn't just that; it's grandma does drugs.
Yeah.
So that's
true.
and that's my worst one.
Yeah.
But I love the part about getting older that makes me more relaxed about life in general.
Yeah.
I like that it's okay that I'm going gray, and it's just things like
Yeah.
that. I love my beautician now because I'm obviously trying to go gray. And she keeps saying, "Oh, not yet."
She's trying to help.
Not yet. She says,
Well, she knows she won't have a
Yeah,
client.
there you go.
if
Well,
you
I'll
go
still get
gray.
my haircut there. But she said, "Well, tell you what, I'll not do anything this time, but before Christmas, we're going to get some more highlights." And
Yeah.
and I find that's some of it's her age, but I think, well, she knows what. But
Yeah.
a lot of my friends have gone great. That's kind of I think it's a new thing for maybe women our age, and
Mhm.
that is to say,
Well, there's women my age going gray on purpose.
well, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And when you're younger, though, I remember it was like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
could not. Yeah,
Yeah.
no way. And now,
Did your mom go gray? Did your dad
oh yeah,
go gray?
my dad, he still had black hair when he died. I still, the man was just born with those genes.
Yeah.
And he still had a pretty good head of hair.
Yeah.
But no, my mother was gray, and I was gray by the time I was dyeing my hair. I've been dyeing it since I've been about 40
Yeah.
because I was pretty gray.
Yeah.
And so it's that 20 years, and you just say to yourself, why?
Yeah.
Why? My husband's gray at this point.
Right? Let's match.
There you go. Might as well. I don't want to go bald like he is.
Yeah, no. You don't want
It
to do
is
that.
funny because he and I talk about another health thing is your feet flatten out.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, I'm like a whole size bigger in my shoes. And it's because your arch flattens out.
Oh.
And yeah. Then I was reading something about how your nose, as you age, starts spreading a little. And then I'm like, oh my God, I've already got a big nose. What's that going to So it is funny the things you think
Yeah.
about. My dad, we used to have to shave the hair off his ears. And I've had to pluck a couple of hairs off my ears. Now, they're not black.
Right. Like his.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
No, those are the oddest things that
Yeah.
you don't even think. I never
You don't
thought
think
about
about.
it until I am this age.
Yeah.
And now
Your thought process changes. You think
it
about
does.
different things.
Yeah.
Do you predict you will, or have you felt like you have experienced a midlife crisis?
Yes. But I think it was closer to 55.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was before my 56th birthday. And I distinctly remember thinking I am now closer to 60 than I am 50.
Yeah.
And it felt awful. And I don't want to say desperate. I kind of knew that I wasn't going to change careers, and maybe it was the thought, I bet I die a teacher. Those were the things that went through my head.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh gosh, there's so many things, maybe I wish I would have done, and yet not really.
Yeah.
But I did. It wasn't severe, and I read a lot. I'm an avid reader. I just read about it and I
Yeah.
knew what it was, and I was able to talk to my doctor about it, and I was able to get, she gave me some meds
Hmm.
to get through it
That's good that you
because,
could recognize that.
yes,
Yeah.
it's, because it's an uncomfortable feeling. It's almost like you're uncomfortable in your own skin because, what have I done? Well, what's my life about? And
Yeah.
is this all there is? Blah, blah, blah.
I feel
And
like that you go like I feel like I've been through a stage like that, like a quarter life crisis. I feel like you kind of go through those stages not just in your midlife. I think it's just a transition and
what we say in child growth and development is the fact that we go through that there are stages of equilibrium and
hmm
disequilibrium. Now, the most common thing, disequilibrium, we always talk about 2-year-olds
yeah,
when they get into that.
the
No, and
terrible
okay,
twos. Yeah.
yes, or tuberty as we
Yeah.
call it. But anyway, that's a disequilibrium, and then you go through equilibrium, and then adolescence,
hmm
disequilibrium.
Yeah.
I do believe that that happens through our whole life, and that it can be physically triggered by hormonal changes
hmm
and that sort of thing, but also emotionally triggered by our experiences.
Yeah.
So, what some person may call a midlife crisis, someone else might have said,
Quarter
gee, I
life.
had that when I was 30.
Yeah.
Okay, so I recognize that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think we go through equilibrium and disequilibrium, and I
Yeah.
prefer equilibrium.
Yeah.
I have decided
Yes.
that. There's my preference. Yeah.
But to enjoy the equilibrium, you have to go through the disequilibrium.
You're absolutely, that's very wise
Yeah.
of you. Yeah. I mean, that's a good piece of wisdom.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think this concludes my interview. Thank you for taking your time out to answer these questions. I had
Well,
a lot of fun discussing this stuff
yes,
with you.
you're very welcome. And they're great questions.
Yes, they are.
They really made me think about things.
Yeah.
It's like now I'm going to be thinking about it all night now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad that I remembered my midlife crisis. Okay?
Yes.
I am. That's good to remember. Oh my God, that was awful.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.